Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to NEWSROOM. I'm your host, Khalid. But today is the 7th of June, 2023. The budget is about to be announced in 48 hours. Lots to discuss with you. Let's begin with the topics that will be under discussion. We'll begin with the National Economic Council that today took important decisions for sustainable growth and progress in Pakistan through human capital development and economic self-reliance. They approved the PSDP outlay 2023 and 2024 and Pak's Economic Outlook 2035 in principle to pursue the development goals and objectives. This we'll begin with this. Then we'll be talking about the strategy of closing markets early, as has been announced by Mr. SN Iqbal. Although there's a lot of criticism by the traders community, as has happened in the past as well, but how effective is it going to be for Pakistan's economy and Pakistan's economic outlook? This is going to be our second story. Then we are going to talk about two people who've been killed and 5 others injured in a shooting at a graduation ceremony in Virginia. The shooting outside the Altria Theatre in Richmond sent hundreds of people, mostly those who were wearing graduation gowns running for safety. And of course, a 19-year-old suspect has tried to flee but has been arrested. And finally, we'll be talking about World Food Safety Day that is being observed across the world today to draw attention towards food safety standards. Let's begin and let's talk a little bit about the National Economic Council today that took important decisions for sustainable growth and progress in Pakistan through human capital development and economic self-reliance. They have approved an overall development budget of rupees 2.709 trillion, almost 24% higher than the current year's budget estimates of rupees 2.19 trillion. More in the following report.
Pakistan is grappling with challenging economic landscape, but government of Pakistan is pragmatically steering the country out of economic quagmire by bold decisions and firm commitment to people of Pakistan. The government is determined to present a progressive budget with a special focus on providing relief to masses and fiscal consolidation to bring down the budget deficit. National Economic Council tentatively approved an overall development budget of 2.709 trillion rupees, almost 24% higher than the current year's budget estimates of 2.19 trillion rupees. The NEC also approved 5 E's framework aimed at turning around Pakistan to put it on a sustained growth trajectory with a focus on 5 E's: exports, e-Pakistan, environment, energy and infrastructure, and equity and empowerment. The transformational plan was deliberated to foster 6 to 8% of annual GDP growth to make it $1 trillion economy and keep poverty at around 15%. Some new initiatives of national significance have been proposed to boost productivity, innovations, exports, food and water security, and enhance social and physical assets to address SDGs, 4R's strategies, flood-related recovery, and 5 E's plans. Reiterating Pakistan's commitment to IMF program, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif asked the Ministry of Finance to ensure that there is no violation of parameters set by the IMF in the next budget to be presented on June the 9th. Government stabilizing measures are conveying a sense of taking corrective action to lay the foundations for building a robust economy and fairer society.
As we've told you before the report, the total development budget is of 2.709 trillion, which is 24% higher than the current estimate that was there. It includes a federal public service development program of 1.15 trillion. It also includes other important programs for different provinces. The Prime Minister has said that the government is investing in education, health and modern infrastructure, as well as technology for the country's economic development. He also said that the government is laying the foundation for Green Revolution 2.0 in Pakistan, which will make the country self-reliant as far as agriculture is concerned. The forum, that is the NEC, the National Economic Council, also gave approval to the revised development budget for the financial year 2022-2023 and the National Development Budget for the financial year 2023-2024. The NEC also approved 80 billion rupees under the Prime Minister's initiatives for youth loans, Pakistan Education Endowment Fund, IT startup, laptop scheme, youth skill development, venture capital program. It also accorded approval to a 145% increase in the higher education budget that has taken it now to 60 billion rupees. And I think that's a very important initiative. That size of the national development budget for the next financial year, as we have told you, is 2,709 billion rupees. Of these, 950 billion rupees have been earmarked for public sector development programs, and also economic growth target has been set up for 3.5% for the next fiscal year. We will of course be continuing to talk about the upcoming budget that it will be announced on Friday, how important it is for our public, how important it is for our youth, for our general public, and for the different sectors, and how important is it for the current economic outlook of the country as well, and how we can come out of it a stronger country. All eyes will be of course on the budget that will be presented the day after tomorrow. Till then we'll be highlighting different aspects of Pakistan's economic outlook as we've just done right now. Let's come to our second story, and that concerns the strategy of closing markets early. How can we save energy? How important is this need for Pakistan to reduce the fiscal burden? We've been joined in the studios by Dr. Khalid. He's a research lead in the energy sector with the leading NGO, that is the SDPI. Dr. Khalid, thank you very much to have joined us. It's a pleasure to have you in the studios and to talk about something that a lot of people have a lot of questions about, and that is the energy sector. Energy, when it comes to Pakistan, has different dimensions to it, whether it be clean and green energy, whether it be the usage of energy, and whether it be the fact that decisions are sometimes taken for the benefit of the general public, but a lot of people don't understand the real value of it all. Now it has been agreed in a National Economic Council meeting to close the markets and commercial centres by 8 p.m. from the 1st of July, that is next month, to conserve energy. How, in your point of view, can we reduce our import bill by implementing these measures, and how implementable are these measures?
Well, your report mentioned that there is a framework for 5 E's. Energy is a very major component of it. Pakistan right now is facing a multifaceted challenge, not just in the domain of energy, in economics, at environment, or environment is degrading, or economy is in turmoil, or energy is like unsustainable. So these measures, there are 2 types of measures we can take for this to make our energy sustainable. First one is from supply side. We make our supply side sustainable. Second is towards from demand side management. If we go towards supply side, I think there is a lot of cost involved in it. We need time to build dams, to build energy generation plants. So in my opinion, demand side management is one very effective short-term solution for this turmoil in terms of economy, in terms of energy, and in terms of environment. Just to give you an example, our economic turmoil is due to widening gap between our imports and our exports. One way is that to reduce imports. To reduce imports, one of the major component of import is our energy-related imports. Just to give you an example or throw some numbers, in the month of April, we have imported like $1 billion USD worth of oil, petrol. If we just save 30% of it, it would be 300 million per month, which would be translated into $3.6 billion per annum. So per year, we would be saving $3.6 billion, which giving the current circumstances or current situation of our economy, it would be a very great support for Pakistan's economy.
Do you feel, Dr. Khalid, that this a measure such as this one needs to be short-term or long-term?
I think this should be a short-term solution, but it should be integrated in such a way that our general public is disciplined in such a way that they start to reduce their energy footprint or energy usage and energy consumption, so that we can support our economy, we can support our sustainable energy. We would mention green energy. We would be then in longer term, we would be incorporating solar, wind, and other sort of thing. But for the short term, this behavioral change in our general public, that is what is required, and that is the most imperative thing.
Is this behavioral change an easy change? Because I was reading the remarks by many trade organizations that were not happy with the decision taken by the government. How can one convince them that these decisions are for the greater good of the country?
Well, nobody is happy when their business is lost. But we need to understand that the current situation of inflation is due to our import and export imbalances. We are short on our foreign reserves. We are short on our dollar supply coming into the country. We need to minimize this gap between import and exports so that we can get rid of this inflation problem. Like just they did in USA, they introduced the act from the Parliament that is titled as Inflation Reduction Act, but it is reducing inflation through sustainable energy prices, through reduction their energy footprint. So we need to realize is that some business loss might happen due to this initiative of demand side management, but in longer term it would serve our economy better.
What are the alternatives for our different trade organizations, for our commercial sector and organizations in order to move ahead, comply with the conditionalities put forward by the government, but also move forward in such an environment that could be a win-win situation for all?
To get a win-win situation is very difficult in these times because there is multifaceted crisis in Pakistan. What we need to do is we need to sort of sacrifice or this short-term turmoil in the situation of short-term turmoil for the betterment of country in longer period of time. What businesses can do, they can alter their practices, they can change their working hours. When they are closed, obviously demand would shift when they would be open. So I think general public is required to understand that there is a turmoil going on in this country, and we can fight this inflation problem through collective effort of private sector, businesses, general public, and of course the government.
Now in January, the decision that has now been implemented was taken in the cabinet meeting way back in January, in which it had been decided that the commercial centers will close by 8:30, the wedding halls will be closing by 10 p.m. in order to for proper usage and efficient usage of electricity. Now that it has been implemented, how important will be the role of the federal and the provincial governments? Because remember, post the 18th Amendment, the provincial governments have their own setup and their own autonomy. Do you feel the provincial governments need to comply, will comply with it? How important will be their responsibility as well?
There is two stages of integration, or when it comes towards implementation of policies. One sort of type of integration is that you integrate your private sector, academia, your public sector, your businesses, your general public, and then there is another integration that is federal government, provincial government, and local governments. I think after 18th Amendment, implementation power is within provincial governments. I think carrot and stick approach is imperative in this regard, not just the stick approach. Carrot should be given to in terms of incentivizing businesses. More importantly, I think there should be political ownership as well. Legislators
and administrative
MPs,
ownership as well, you know, in all the different offices. Now, way back in January, our Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif had asked the federal government to cut down the electricity usage by 30%. And do you feel that decision that was taken way back in January proved to be a successful initiative?
I think some decisions are symbolic as well. I mean, that initiative should inspire general public as well, that our government is cutting their electricity consumption, cutting their footprint of electricity. General public should follow that steps or follow this role model as well, so that inflation would be reduced, energy consumption is reduced, in turn our imports are reduced.
All right, Dr. Khalid, I'd also like to understand different measures that could be taken or have been taken, like imposition of additional duties on inefficient electric fans, use of electric emitting diode LED bulbs, introduction of electric bikes, phasing out motorcycles that run on petrol, illuminating street lights only on 50% capacity. We're seeing it a lot in our capital city. Do you feel these are steps in the right direction? What more needs to be done in your point of view?
I think EV electric vehicles should be promoted more, because it is not just to help our economy, it would also boost the middle income section of our economy as well, because two-wheelers and three-wheelers and EVs in terms of mass transit and in terms of public transport, it imperatively support our middle income groups, so that they would have more budgets, they would have more household budgets income directed towards more productive activities, buying more healthy food and other sort of healthy and sustainable expenditure heads. I think EVs should be promoted. inefficient appliances. Like we have seen, we are hearing this news from ages that fans are the most electricity consuming when it comes to.
And a lot of people don't know that.
Yes, efficient fans that would reduce our energy consumption by many folds.
That is true. Also, this whole process of energy mix and the usage of it all has become a huge challenge for countries such as Pakistan. In your point of view, how can our government reduce dependence on fossil fuels and imported oil and make a proper, judicious, balanced use of national resources?
Well, I think it would require a long-term planning, not in terms of that we are having inconsistency in the policies. I think legislation should be done for long-term planning, to incorporate sustainability into our economic policies, integration of energy and environment policies into our economic policies, so that we are planning or heading towards greener Pakistan, not just in terms of renewable energy coming into our grid system, but also our energy consumption is decreased due to behavioral changes that has been that is aim of this demand side management policies that that NEC has just approved.
All right. Also, in your point of view, how can we attract foreign investment, technical support to promote the usage of clean and green energy that includes so many different factors: wind, solar, biomass, and hydel, and the list goes on. I have gone to many meetings and conferences where countries such as South Korea have promoted their models on how they have been effectively using clean and green energy. How can we attract their investment here in order to promote the usage of clean and green energy in our country?
There is a climate crisis in the world right now. Sympathies are with the countries who are affected with climate change and other sort of adversities due to climate crisis. Pakistan can attract this climate financing, but not in terms that world would just give us a blank check. We need to make our policies consistent with the agenda of green development and green policies, so that world would see us as an example, and then FDI and foreign direct investments and other sort of climate financing and other financial mechanism, those are used, for example, debt to nature swap, and they would start coming into Pakistan, so that world would not only helping Pakistan to fight climate change, but to help Pakistan in becoming more self-sufficient and become more adaptive in terms of fighting against climate crisis.
And I think that is the most important thing, is to promote the usage of clean and green energy and the different kinds of green energy that are present across the world. And Pakistan can effectively use solar energy and wind energy, if nothing else. Biomass is something that is used so much in our villages, and that could be, you know, more effectively used in the days to come. Hydel, of course, we use it as well. This said, if you look at the patterns, lifestyle patterns in the West, especially in, for example, in the European Union, we see a lot of their commercial centers closing by 8:30, their restaurants maximum closing by 9:30 or 10 p.m. The adaptive change in countries such as Pakistan, how easy or difficult is it, and whose role in the community becomes more important? Is it the government's role? Is it the local leaders' role? Is it our religious leaders' role that becomes more important? How can we properly propagate this whole phenomena of changing our lifestyles for the betterment of the country, for the good of the country?
Well, I think this should be a joint effort. You named it. Academia should be in it. Civil society organizations should be in it. Research think tanks should be in it. Government, religious leaders, private sector, businesses, or political leaders, so that a narrative, a discourse of energy reduction through energy saving, energy conservation can be made on the national conjuncture and national stage. So that what we need to do is we need to incentivize this energy conservation discourse, and we need to sell it to our private sector, so that they would own this initiative and they start this drive at their own, and the energy conservation and energy savings through early closure of shopping malls and their businesses. In that way, I think not only we would be saving our economy, we would be saving our energy, and we would be saving our environment as well. And Pakistan can move ahead in this time of poly crisis where global economies are suffering from inflation.
But you know, the fact remains, I mean, it's so interesting to talk face to face and have a discussion on this. But when it comes to actual implementation, there's a lot of opposition to the whole fact of closing down commercial centers. We have had so many, comments that have come, for example, from the All Pakistan Traders Association that has rejected the decision of the federal government. It says that our work starts in the evening. How can you close our commercial centers at 8 o'clock? How can we, A, justify the government's decision, B, properly make the commercial organizations understand the importance of this change of lifestyle, and then also persuade them so that they can implement that in their lives as well?
Well, there are two factors which industry or businesses, they look for them. First one is inflation, because it affects the demand side. That will reduce demand of businesses. Second is interest rate. Interest rates are high, borrowing cost is very high for businesses. They would actually want that interest rates come down and inflation come down, so that they can expand their businesses. Demand is expanded if inflation is reduced. One formula to do that is to curtail our trade deficit, which will increase our supply coming into our country of dollars. In that way, State Bank of Pakistan and government would have more ease in reducing interest rate, and inflation would be reduced when imports are reduced and dollar prices are getting low. This would create some sort of cushion and provide some sort of incentives to private businesses in terms of inflation reduction, and this will increase their demand. In terms of interest rates coming down, this will reduce their lending cost and their businesses will expand. I think this economic cost or economic incentive should be explained to private sector and businesses and general public that these measures are not just for the government, these measures are for the Pakistan and for the general public as well.
Dr. Khalid, when it comes to measures to be taken, how could, for example, daylight saving timings help? Way back in March, when Ramzan was about to start, there was again talk of reducing the timings, and there was a lot of hue and cry. At that time, the All Pakistan Textile Mills Association had urged the government to utilize this daylight saving timings across the country to save 1% of the annual energy costs. Is this an interesting, good measure?
This is a good measure to, let's say, discipline our general public, that they utilize more natural light, they reduce their electricity consumption bill for lighting purposes. They are effectively utilizing their daylight, and they are coming back home early, and they are closing their shopping malls early, so that they would be not only reducing their electricity bill, but also consuming more of naturally available light as well. In that way, I don't think this would effectively, or a very major amount of energy would be saving through it, but this would essentially a very good component of policy in terms of disciplining or general public, or create a narrative of electricity saving and energy conservation.
How you talked of policy, that's a word I find very interesting. How can you persuade, for example, the textile sector, the All Pakistan Textile Mills Association, or the All Pakistan Traders Association, to change their policy so that the demand for locally produced products and the usage and the sale of those products could be adjusted as per the new timings, and the public also adjusts itself as per the new timings, so that, for example, if they have to go at 8, they can go at 6, they can go at 7, that the office timings are adjusted accordingly, so that they can come out of the offices early and they can go and do whatever shopping they need to do, or purchases that they need to do.
Well, in my opinion, I think earlier closure of industry would not be as much effective as we are thinking. The effective thing would be closure of malls early, closure of shopping malls and closure of wedding halls and other sort of thing. Industry should be should not be closed in that manner, because industrial growth is important for Pakistan. It would not only bring dollars into the Pakistan, but also provide many night shift workers with employment and income, so that this should be targeted. These early closures should be targeted, not applied on just that uniform level all across the countries or all across the sectors. I think one wise thing to do would be take baby steps, and closure of early shopping malls and wedding halls should be done, and then impact assessment, whether it actually cost the economy or whether it actually saved the economy.
But the fact remains, Dr. Khalid, we don't have much time nor for our discussion nor for the implementation of these measures, because these measures need to be implemented quickly. On the 1st of July, it's not far away, so the people need to be need to understand that this is for the benefit of the country as a whole, for the society as a whole. There might be some issues, some little repercussions, but nevertheless it is for the greater good of the country. Thank you very much, Dr. Khalid Waleed, research lead energy with the SDPI, to have come to us and to have talked to us about these measures that have been taken by the government starting from the 1st of July. Let's come to our last two stories. The first concerns 2 people killed and 5 injured in a shooting at the Virginia graduation. 2 people have been killed and 5 others injured in this shooting. This happened during a graduation ceremony. You know what graduation ceremonies are all about, when students are there, they are getting their degrees and they are in a jubilant mood, the parents are there, the families are there. The last thing on their mind is that such an incident could happen. Now, this happened outside the Altria Theatre in Richmond. It sent hundreds of people, many of them wearing graduation gowns, running for safety. A 19-year-old suspect who was trying to flee has been arrested. He will be charged with at least 2 counts of second-degree murder. The victims' identities have not yet been released. Police say 2 people killed were an 18-year-old man and his 36-year-old father. A 31-year-old was also shot, sustained life-threatening injuries as well. This gunman opened fire in Monroe Park, which is directly opposite the theatre, shortly after the ceremony, for a high school that finished at around 5:15 p.m. Their local time. The superintendent of the police says that he does not have any more words on this. He's tired of seeing people getting shot, our kids getting shot, and he begs the entire community to stop. This is a very important remark in the whole context of such shooting incidents that are happening across the United States of America since the last couple of years, and the casualties that we have seen as well. Let's come to our last story, ladies and gentlemen, and that concerns World Food Safety Day, that is being celebrated across the world, observed across the world, to draw attention towards food safety standards. That is extremely important, because a lot of countries, because of climate change, because of other issues, because of the geostrategic, geopolitical issue, are confronted with food safety issues and food security issues. President Arif Alvi on the occasion has said that the food safety needs to be ensured in Pakistan by following food safety standards. He said food safety standards can help us live an active and a healthy life. And I think that these are the prerequisites as well, something that we need to understand as laymen, as citizens of Pakistan. With that, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with news story segments that pertain to us, you and Pakistan. Allah Hafiz.